Thank you, Ellen, and good evening, everybody. I'm very conscious that when we're talking about mindfulness and doing something like a webinar, we've got a real great challenge as to how mindful we are about watching the webinar. Webinars are one of those classic things where you can listen to the webinar whilst checking your email, have a look at some of the things that I'm talking about, Google some of the items I'm talking about. Mindfulness is about focusing on one thing at a time. So here's a challenge for you. Focus on one thing at a time. Have a go at going through this webinar and actually thinking about mindfulness for you and how this can help you in your life. Because what I hope to do during this webinar is not just share some concepts with you, but actually be a bit of a coach to you in the moment right now. So if you don't already have a pen and paper or something else you can write on, the iPad, whatever technology you have, then please do grab that now so that we can do a bit of in-the-moment coaching. Don't worry, you won't need to come on the line and say anything, just for you to reflect on some of the things I'm talking about. As Alan said, I may have met some of you before in the work that I do on recruitment or performance management, speaking at various events. If I've not met you before, this is my smiley mug. I'm a very smiley person, or as one person at BVA recently said, crazy lady. I'll take that as my definition. So this is me. Somebody else that you might have contact with is Katie in our team. Katie is our expert on vet recruitment, so if we're ever working with you on recruiting a vet or clinical director or operations manager, practice manager, Katie would be working on that for you. And as a team, as Totem, we are a team of occupational psychologists. So our focus is on when people are at their best. Now, Alan has mentioned that we do work around recruitment and performance management because those are key things about people at their best. But that's also critical with regards to mindfulness. When we are at our best, we are focused on doing our best work. We are feeling great about ourselves. One very global researcher, and I describe him as a global researcher because he's talked very broadly about when we are at our best, talks about flow, this idea of when we're in flow or when we're thriving, and that is the key focus of everything that we do. Now that means that we have a focus on growth and development of people. It also means that there's something about finding people who are the right fit, so that's the recruitment work we do, helping organisations, veterinary practices, retail companies, all sorts of businesses find people who are the right fit for their business. And finally, there's something about letting go of the things that hold us back and just soaring into, the sky's the limit, or even further if you like, with regards to our own development and working to strength. So that's what we're all about as a team and the work that we do. But enough about me. Let's talk about mindfulness. Our agenda for this evening is very simple. Why would anybody want to consider mindfulness? Why is this important? Why has it in fact become very popular? Mindfulness has moved from being something that Buddhists talk about to now being something that's talked about in The Guardian, the Times 100, Best Companies to Work For. There are things in the Forbes magazines about this. Harvard Business Review has many articles on it. Why is it growing in popularity and why is it helpful? What the hell is it? Let's get that over and done with as well. What is mindfulness? And how then can you use it? And how could it benefit you? So that's our agenda for this evening. And yet let me add on this. Nothing I say this evening will shock you or sound new. I'm setting the benchmark low, I know, for setting your expectations for this evening. But there's a real sense here of common sense. Everything I say, you'll go, well, yeah, that makes sense. And so what? Listening to it and hearing that it makes sense is not enough. And I have a very personal experience of this because the first time I came across mindfulness, it was probably a good 6, maybe even 12 months before I went past the stage of saying, yeah, that's totally great. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. Sounds fantastic. Yes, of course I do. Yes, I do mindfulness. Yes, totally. I wasn't doing it at all. I was just agreeing with the concept of it. And now that I'm actually doing it and have been for a number of months, what a difference it has made to my life and what a difference it is making to the people I'm working with, that I've actually seen that myself and can talk from personal experience. So another challenge to you for this evening is to go beyond the yes, that makes sense. Go into how can I use it, what can I do with it, literally, so that you end this webinar with 1, 2, 3 tops actions for this evening, tomorrow morning, tomorrow when you're at work. Take away some practical action points to actually do something with this content. So let's start with why. Why mindfulness? Why is it effective? Why is it growing in popularity? Well, here's a question. How are you? How are you doing? How do you respond to that question when anybody asks you that question? I'll tell you what I hear. I'm busy. It is the standard response to that question from absolutely everybody. Past the niceties of I'm fine, thanks, or yeah, okay, just passing each other in the corridor, actually asking somebody, how are you? The response is, I'm busy. And there is a sense that that needs to stop. We are heading drastically towards burnout, staff being off sick, staff being really disengaged with what we're doing as an organization, and this needs to stop. And technology, as much as we love it for being able to do things like this, for being able to keep in touch with family far away and use technology for all the great things it offers, actually makes this worse with the number of distractions and things we have going on at any one time. There is a real need for us to think about stopping and slowing down. So why is mindfulness helpful? Well, there are a number of benefits to it. In a very busy crowd, it can be very, very powerful to feel like a bit of an island in that. Be that it is literally you're in a crowd, you're walking through the city centre, you're surrounded by people, you're maybe even braving the London Underground. There is something powerful about being an island, a moment of clarity and peace amongst that crowd. Or it could be more of an analogy with the crowd being the busyness of your work, the emails coming in, the needs, the to-do list, the clients, the staff asking for support. There is a crowd around us all the time, and we need to be finding peace within that. There is also a massive overload on our senses. Our brain is only capable of taking in between 3 and 7 pieces of information at a time. Look around you. Between 3 and 7 pieces of information at a time. Well, you've already got my voice, the stuff you can see on the screen, whatever else you've got on your screen, whatever else is going on in the room, whatever else you can hear outside the room, whatever else you're thinking of that you should have been doing tonight that you put off so that you can listen to this, whatever you're thinking of you need to be doing tomorrow, and I need to do the washing up and I need to do the clothes, and all of a sudden the idea that we can only take in 3 to 7 pieces of information means we are in constant sensory overload. So finding some way of slowing that down and finding calm is extremely helpful. Creativity comes from that. If I am not completely overloaded with sensory information, thoughts, ideas, to-do lists, then I can spend more time actually thinking about new opportunities, being creative and finding better ways of doing things. And that means we can actually start being more effective. I can tell you lots of detail around the benefits found from mindfulness, but the overall message is stop being ineffective, start being more effective. The idea of us being busy fools is very accurate at the moment. We are generally running around doing so much, we're not doing it effectively. So let's start being more effective. Well, let's look at some of that detail behind the business impact of mindfulness. So many organizations, the most famous one perhaps for really embracing mindfulness is Google, because they've really taken this on. They have, I think, 700 of their senior leaders. A company that has 700 senior leaders is impressive in itself, go through a large amount of mindfulness training and mindfulness engagement. And what they found is lower absenteeism, so people going off less often, lower sickness, lower staff turnover, and equally on the flip side of that, higher creativity, more ideas coming out in what we can do differently, employee engagement, which is one of the biggest drivers of performance, and therefore the performance indicators that come